If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer. George Basher will give the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reverend Stephen. May we pray.
Almighty God, we thank you for the opportunity to remember, celebrate, honor, and pray for those who lost their lives as the victims of the 9/11, or as some call it, the 9/11 Patriot Remembrance Day attacks at the World Trade Center, at the Pentagon, and in the Shanksville, Pennsylvania field. We also celebrate, remember, honor, and pray for the heroes, the police and the first responders who went into the World Trade Center to help the victims in the World Trade Center. We thank you that we may continue to honor and pray for the families of those who are left behind because of those attacks. Today, we thank you for the freedom we may experience and live in this, our good old US of A, because of the members of our families who have served to defend our freedom. We remember and celebrate those who have given their lives, or who were or are wounded in body, mind, and or spirit. We celebrate and honor and pray for those who continue to serve in our armed forces. We thank them all for their service. Almighty God, may we never forget. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Please be seated. Excuse me for a minute. First Vice Commander Joe Montrose will read Trump's proclamation.
Presidential Proclamation on National Days of Prayer and Remembrance 2019. During these National Days of Prayer and Remembrance, we come together to honor the memory of nearly 2,000 men and women and children who perished in the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. Passage of time will never diminish the magnitude. Can you hear? Thank you. The magnitude of the loss or the courage, compassion, strength, and unity displayed during one of our darkest hours. The horrific events of that September morning shook our nation to its core as we watched in disbelief as the chaos unfolded. Yet in the midst of loss and destruction, a renewed pride, patriotism, and appreciation for the precious blessings of life and liberty filled our soul. We pause, therefore, to remember not merely our pain and sorrow from that day, but also our will, our fortitude, and our reinvigorated unity and love for our fellow Americans. Since the founding of our republic, we have proclaimed reliance on Almighty God. Prayer has sustained and guided the leaders and citizens of this great nation in times of peace and prosperity, and in times of conflict and disaster. Thus it is fitting that we again turn to our Creator for wisdom, comfort, and peace on this somber occasion. Praying for all those who lost loved ones at the World Trade Center, at the Pentagon, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and for all who bear the wounds, seen and unseen, of these tragedies. We also pray for our first responders who risk their own lives to rescue others in peril and continue to do so day in and day out, as well as for our men and women in the military who protect our homeland, serving a cause greater than themselves. The United States has endured many trials, yet few events have challenged our resolve as the events of September 11, 2001. On that fateful day, our faith was challenged, but never lost. Our nation wept, but could not be defeated. Through the devastation, we emerged stronger. During these commemorative days, may we unite in prayer and remembrance and do our part to ensure that future generations never forget this immeasurable tragedy or even doubt this nation's extraordinary resilience. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim Friday, September 6th through Sunday, September 8th, 2019, as National Days of Prayer and Remembrance. I ask that the people of the United States mark these National Days of Prayer and Remembrance with prayer, contemplation, memorial services, the visiting of memorials, the ringing of bells, and even candlelight remembrance vigils. I invite all people around the world to share these days of prayer and remembrance. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 5th day of September, year of our Lord 2019, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 244th Donald J. Trump, President of the United States.
I just want to say a couple of words, and our keynote speaker, County Executive Melvin, will speak. 18 years ago, the United States of America was attacked. The World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and another location in Washington, D.C. were targets. The terrorists succeeded in hitting 3 out of 4 targets. The world may never forget, but it seems America has. When a congresswoman says some people did something, it seems we have forgotten. September 11, 2001 is an iconic day in American history. Everyone stopped what they were doing when they heard the news. To all of us, it seemed like it cannot be true, but it was true. Those of us at Ground Zero remember the dust, the hack in our throats, the long days we worked, and the weeks went on. We cannot forget what happened that September day. I was amazed every time I went outside the zone, and the people were all flying American flags. It felt good inside. The terrorists meant to destroy the faith in this country, but instead they gave us a new meaning of service to this country. We gather here those who lost their lives that day. We honor the first responders who went into the buildings to help others and never returned. We support our military who fight and die in foreign lands so that we will not be attacked again. Here at Melvin Roads, we are committed to remember September 11th. That is why we conduct this remembrance ceremony. We vow to remember September 11th, 2001, and to never forget. Thank you. Our keynote speaker, County Executive Melvin.
I think Hugh should be the keynote speaker after those great words. Thank you, Hugh. And I'm glad you're feeling better as well. And I just noticed on the back of Hugh's beret there, WTC badge on that. So we thank you for your service, and thank you to all the first responders that are here, and we certainly honor and pray for those that were there on Ground Zero, many of whom are still suffering the after effects, and many of whom have passed on because of the after effects of 9/11, and certainly pleased to see the Congress pass some needed legislation to help those folks. I want to thank everybody for being here as well. It's an honor to speak today, and joined by a lot of my colleagues here in the audience and behind me. So it's an honor to be able to address you for a few minutes. And you know, you think back, 2,976 people from 93 nations that day, 2976 who got up and just like a day just like this. And it seems like a lot of 9/11s that I can recall lately have been this beautiful, bright, blue sky day, perfect fall or late summer day, where everybody got up and just went about their business, and then the world stopped turning there for an instant. And I think all of us, much like those of us that remember, I don't, I was only a month old, but when John Kennedy died, everybody will tell you exactly where they were and what they were doing, and that's a moment frozen in time. And I think it's our day of infamy, just like Pearl Harbor. It's our day of infamy. And I remember where I was that day, just as all of you do. And you know, you think back, those folks were just going about their business, and to get attacked the way we did, I think we went through first shock, and then some fear, and then anger, and then determination and resolve. And it's the determination and resolve that led us through that and let us rebuild and become stronger. And to work together during that time was an amazing thing to see, and we could use more of that today. But it was amazing in the aftermath to see. There's certainly, and I would admit, there's still some anger that lingers. For those of you who don't know, I was an airline pilot at the time. I used that gate at Logan Airport hundreds and hundreds of times. I went in and out of that gate flying my airplane. And when I saw the video, I knew exactly what gate that was because I had been there just a few days prior. But all of you know exactly where you were as well. And so I went through that anger thinking, I had finished up just the night before. I was done, flew back here to Albany, and was done for about 2 days, and I was going back out on the road. And immediately start to think, do I know any of those folks? Do I know any of that crew? Who is it? I had buddies at American and buddies at United. Are they safe? Are they okay? And for a few of them, they weren't okay. So it was unbelievable to watch the response from our first responders. But also you think about what those flight crews went through. And there were court officers there in the World Trade Center as well that don't get talked about. They were helping out. It was everybody coming together at once. And to think, you know, the Pentagon and Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the World Trade Centers, and they were aiming for the Capitol. They were aiming for that symbol of America to take out the dome. But we stood strong, and here we are, hopefully learned our lessons, but it does sort of dull with time a little bit, and I guess that's maybe the mourning process, but it's also something for those of us old enough to be really aware of what went on that day. That's something that we can never forget, and that's why we gather here for these ceremonies, just like we do at Memorial Day and at Veterans Day, to honor those that paid an incredible price. And I think that's something that we have a responsibility to pass on to the younger generation as well, so to try to get them to realize just how horrific that day was, but also that we were able to rebound and come back from that and join together. And I guess if there's one message of 9/11, the best way we could honor those folks is to continue to do that. We can argue among ourselves, and that's okay, but at the end of the day, we got to work together as Americans to make this country every single thing that it can be, so that we continue to be, as Ronald Reagan said, the shining city on the hill, the last great hope of mankind. So thank you for being here. It's an honor to address you today on this solemn day of remembrance, but also a day of hope and determination and resolve that we go forward and continue to build this great country. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you.
we are honored to have with us New York State Senator Jordan. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to partner with the Patriots of the American Legion Melvin Road Post and be part of this special ceremony. Today, we remember the nearly 3,000 of our fellow Americans who were stolen from us 18 years ago on a terrible day. We reflect upon the evil that confronted America and how Americans united in common cause to strike back and win the global war on terror. It was 18 years on this day, September 11, 2001, that 19 terrorist cowards murdered American citizens. We watched in horror as planes carrying innocent civilians were weaponized, flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, struck the Pentagon, and crashed into a field in my native Pennsylvania. September 11, 2001 was a day we will never forget, for it was a day of horror, loss, and unimaginable sorrow. Like Pearl Harbor, it's a day that will forever live in infamy. Yet, in the horrors and anguish of that fateful day, we witnessed incredible acts of heroism, courage, and compassion. We witnessed first responders running into the burning Twin Towers to save their fellow citizens. We saw the men and women of our military rush into the flames of the Pentagon to save their brothers and sisters in arms. Moreover, we learned of the heroics of passengers aboard Flight 93 and their rallying cry of, "Let's roll," as they fought back and foiled the terrorist plan to strike our nation's capital. Terrorist cowards attacked America. They did not defeat our great nation. Our hearts were broken, but not our spirit. America emerged from September 11th united in common cause. Now, 18 years since, we continue to see America's enduring spirit and character shining through. It was reported that the current FDNY Academy class includes 13 members, 12 men and 1 woman, whose firefighter fathers were murdered on September 11th. That spirit of service, that legacy of heroism, is embodied in these brave men and women who chose to follow in their fathers' footsteps and serve our state, their communities, as first responders. So today and every day, let us recall that spirit of service and patriotism as we reflect upon all that we lost and everything that we still have. On this, the 18-year anniversary of September 11, 2001. Thank you, and may God bless America's fallen and all who serve, protect, and defend our great nation.
Next, I would like to introduce a good friend of our American Legion, New York State Assemblyman, Ashby.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here today. I know that it's hot out there. I think it's important that we're all here today. Today is a day of remembrance. I believe nearly everyone who was alive on September 11, 2001 can recall where and how they felt during that tragic day. I was a senior in college and had an early morning lab. Our class was interrupted by a student announcing that a plane had hit the World Trade Center. When I returned to my dorm, I watched the second plane impact the tower. We saw the destruction of the Pentagon, and soon we learned of the brave and solemn actions that took place on Flight 93 over Pennsylvania. In the coming days and nearly 20 years after the attacks, we continue to learn more about what happened and why. The reality of loss took hold for many of us. It lingers and grips us today. We hold fast to the accounts of heroism and defiance of terrorism. Stories like Rick Rescorla, the head of security for Morgan Stanley. Rick is credited with saving over 2,000 lives in the South Tower through his preparation and his team's efforts that day. Rick notably was a Silver Star, Bronze Star, and Purple Heart recipient who served in the Battle of Nha Trang in Vietnam. He was last seen running up the stairs in the South Tower to bring more people to safety. Rick Rescorla's story is certainly not the only gallant act many witnessed that day. The thousands of first responders, military personnel, and civilian volunteers, many who live locally, that descended upon Ground Zero that day provide an enduring example of America at its best. Looking back, I believe it branded many of us with a feeling that we had to act. For myself, it reaffirmed efforts to join the United States Army. And many others, it awakened a desire to serve in a multitude of capacities. All were linked to a core ideal, a selfless obligation to serve. It enveloped our state and nation in unity unlike anything I've ever seen since. Nowadays, it can seem we are far from this collective attitude. When we recall what happened 18 years ago today, it's important to acknowledge the monumental loss we suffered and those who are still suffering today. But it is imperative that we regularly recount the heroes and their inspirational examples. By doing this, we are not only ensuring that the younger generation will know America at its best, but we are also challenging our own hearts to serve each other with the selflessness and courage that can elude us, lest we forget. Thank you, and God bless America.
Next, we have our own Tom Grant, county legislator, to say a few words.
I'll say a very, very few words, because I think it's been covered by the speakers prior to me, but I just do want to say a couple of things. First off, we're joined also today by our chairman of the legislature, Mike Stanhope. Thank you, Mike. Very important to the county legislature. Obviously, it's a date that can't be forgotten. Although time has passed, it always stays with each and every one of us. On this anniversary, we remember and honor the innocent lives lost in the September 11th attacks 18 years ago, and the courageous first responders who risked their lives to save others. In their memory, we must continue to work toward creating a world free from fear, violence, and hate. Our thanks to the Post for putting this ceremony together. Our thanks to Clinton Heights for participating as well. On behalf of the members of the county legislature, I'd ask all the members who are here today. We have a certificate we'd like to present to Amanda Blake and the Post. Mike, if you present it with question.
Thank you very much. We could not go on with having our town supervisor speak. Jack, you ready?
Thank you. Thank you to Clinton Heights Fire Department. I live up in Hampton Manor, and my children and grandchildren are always safe in my house because we've got Clinton Heights there, and we've got the best police department in the Capital Region down here, and a stunning new chief who has hit the ground running. So I just want to say we're safe here. I just want to make two quick points. First, I want to talk about the optometry of first responders. And whereas I'm famous for throwing out academic, abstract jargon that means nothing to anyone else, this one I'm going to explain. When you go to the optometrist, you get that first lens, and you can kind of see things that's not very clear. But before 9/11, if somebody asked me about firefighters or police officers,
Were they heroes? Were they brave? I'd say, yeah, sure they are. But then on 9/11, I got those 6 clicks of the lens, and it became perfectly clear for the first time who these people are. And who they are heroes, are people who sacrificed for us. We've got people back here in uniform who would do the exact same thing without thinking. And so this served as good preparation for me, because who knew that, 15 years later I'd have supervisory responsibility for police force and the dispatch office and first responders all over the place. So it was a good thing. If there's a silver lining in that cloud for me, it was that I learned a very important lesson that has allowed me to work very hard to keep our first responders in a position to succeed. The second thing I want to say is people say never forget, but everybody has forgotten. Okay, remember 9/12? We were all together. One nation under God, indivisible. Hell, at Fenway Park, they had a sign that said, "We're all New Yorkers now." We were all together. And today in 2019, I'm tired of the division. I'm tired of what's going on in this country. Okay? Here's the reality. When those people come for us, they're coming for your children and they're coming for mine. And it does not matter what your ideology is. It does not matter what your politics are. They're coming for your family and they're coming for mine. And that's a bond that's so much deeper than what public policy should we choose to make sure everybody's prosperous. Yes, we're politicians and we'll fight our corner, but there's a way to do it, and this has got to stop. And no day is better than today to say, look who we are. We're the United States of America, the greatest country this planet has ever seen. And don't ever forget, the only ones who could ever defeat us are us. Okay? If we divide, if we fragment, we can be beaten. If we stand united, we are the United States of America. And God bless America. God bless the first responders. And God bless every one of these politicians behind me, even though some of them are wrong some of the time. They might say the same about me. Thank you.
It is my honor to have the Rensselaer County Veteran Service Director, Global, please speak. Always an inspirational speaker.
Good afternoon. It has been recently said by some uninformed individuals that on 9/11, quote, some people did something, unquote. Nonsense. They are wrong. America was attacked, and America will defend herself. Throughout our history, the greatness of America has been revealed through the heroism of our U.S. military. This heroism has continued throughout our war on terrorism, even recently as last week, as our ancestors also fought against a variety of foes throughout our great history. These feats do continue to this very day. I have seen the greatness of America reflected in the faces of her sons and daughters, our sons and daughters in combat. As Alex de Tocqueville said, America is great because America is good, and that when America ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. Some people don't like the greatness of America, but we will fight that evil. As President Trump said, free people are never at the mercy of evil. We will always remember and emulate those actions of heroes which have occurred throughout our great history. Remember freedom's home and defenders. Stay free, never forget, and never flinch from evil. No one is above the law, and without the law, no one is safe. Thank you.
Can I please have Sheriff Russo and Chief Radinsky say a few words. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you to you and Melvin Road for hosting this event every year to keep the memory of 9/11 fresh in our minds. Now today we say never forget, and that means a lot of things. It means never forget the victims, the survivors who still feel the effects today, our first responders, police, fire, and personnel, every citizen who became heroes in this day, running toward the danger to help their fellow Americans. But it also means to me, never forget that there's people in this world that want to rain down death and destruction on America. And we have to keep that in mind. And it also means never forget the lessons that we've learned from 9/11. And one of those, and it was a contributing factor, is law enforcement agencies failing to communicate with one another. So in Rensselaer County, we strive to communicate with our local, state, and federal partners so that we would have a better idea of what's going on in the community, and we would have a better way to form a coordinated response. So, again, thank you for coming. God bless America. Never forget.
Sounds like a Jack and Joshua similarities in our speeches here, so I apologize for your presence. As we gather here today in remembrance of the 8 EMTs and paramedics, the 23 New York PD police officers, the 37 Port Authority officers, the 343 firefighters, and the 2,556 civilians, totaling 2,976 senseless deaths, who gave their lives on 9/11. We must continue to honor them the best we can by living each and every day as if it were September 12th. On that day, there was no political sides, no gender discrimination, no race differences. America was united. Sadly, these countless lives of over 1,400 and climbing that we continue to lose with ongoing diagnoses contributed to exposure to ground zero continue. So today we have to continue to teach our youth and our communities to remember September 12th. That's the day we came together to remember our families, to honor them for our losses, and we need to continue to honor our family, friends, and strangers that we lost on 9/11 daily, not once a year. This is why ceremonies such as those that they've offered us to participate in today are so important, so that we do never forget. And we continue to thank our first responders in the fire departments, in EMS, and in the police that not only continue to protect us in our local communities, nationwide, but throughout the United States and throughout the world. Please never forget, continue to God bless America, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Greenbush for being here, having the flag flying. I was hoping that it'd be the public unveiling of a new truck, but I guess not. Some words from the chief. Thank you.
Good morning. I am proud to be here as the chaplain of this police department and a past chief. Our chief officers are honoring those in New York City today with a motorcade that takes place from here to the city. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge the presence of a brother firefighter from the Bronx. Welcome and thank you for attending each year. September 11, 2019 marks the 18th anniversary of the terrorist attacks on our country occurring at the World Trade Center in New York City, the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, and thanks to the courageous efforts of the passengers on Flight 93, which crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, averting another government location somewhere in Washington, D.C. On behalf of our entire department and the emergency services, we thank all of you for joining us here today to remember those who have sacrificed all. The officers and members of the Clinton Heights Fire Department have gathered here today to pay their respects and to honor all of the firefighters, police officers, EMS personnel, and our military who have made the ultimate sacrifice during these terrorist attacks on this day in 2001, and to those even today dying from the diseases caused by those attacks. Whether at the crash site in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, or the World Trade Center in Manhattan, we must never forget this day in history. Our department, along with so many others in the emergency services, have pledged we will never forget. This is not just a saying for us at the firehouse, it's a stark reminder of the courage, the heroism, and the compassion showed by the emergency service providers on that fateful day. Our entire country witnessed the greatest acts we could know as first responders. The act to help our fellow man, woman, or child in their greatest time of need. Please join us as we ring the fire bell in ceremonial 5 sets of 5, which dedicate fallen brothers and sisters, followed by a moment of silence. Done as the ringing of the 5 sets of 5 bells signifies a brother or sister who did not return from the call.
That concludes today's remembrance ceremony. We wish all of you to come inside the air conditioning and enjoy a nice lunch by a beautiful chef.